Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me on another Dolphin Financial Radio Show. I'm Dan Wendell, and today's topic, we're going to be talking about toys. It is the holiday season for me right now, and we're going to be talking about how investing in toys could actually be a better return. You can get a better return than some other collectibles, even stocks, bonds, gold. It sounds crazy. It sounds a little outrageous, which is why I need to bring in the biggest kid I know, my co-host Tony Shore. There he is, Tony.
I am a big kid. I am a huge kid. I love toys. I love Legos.
For the listeners, my background is Legos. It's a Lego board, pastel colors, but needless to say, it's the best I could find in a short amount of time. Tony, we're going to talk about Legos in particular.
Sure.
And I sent you an article. I'm going to share it with everybody.
Awesome.
It's called Lego, the Toy of Smart Investors. Okay, so this is a study by Victoria Dobrinskaya of the Higher School of Economics with her co-author, Julia Kishlova. Of course, I'm going to give you the quick quiz, Tony. What country do you think the Higher School of Economics is in?
Well, judging by the name Kishlova, I'm going to guess Russia.
Yes,
Maybe
Dobrinskaya.
Moscow, University of Moscow or Moscow.
Yeah, it's in Moscow. The School of Higher Economics.
Okay.
And so this study it's a new type of thing that I've seen. I'd never seen a study on Legos before in this sense, but I found it fascinating, and I want to talk to you about it, get your opinion on it. But here's how the study worked. They used the prices of 2,322 Lego sets from the years 1987 to 2015. And they looked at the primary sales and then online auction transactions. But this is for unopened sets only. So this isn't the ones that I have in my attic that my kids
just
don't
all
play with
thrown in
anymore.
a heap or, maybe pieces missing. Yeah, if you buy them and keep them new, unopened in the box. And it's the same way with pretty much any collectible toy.
Right.
If it's unopened in the package and you save it for long enough, it's going to be worth something.
Exactly. So did you have Legos growing up?
Oh, yeah. Legos were my life. And my kids, all three of my kids love Legos. We still will buy a Lego set and put it together sometimes for Christmas, just for fun.
Which is why we're doing this show around the holiday, because it came, I had Legos growing up, some big sets, none of the major ones that you see about, the Star Wars ones, which are the biggies. I had just a generic space station or something like that. Yeah. But I still have them, and I gave them to my kids, and they put them together. And so I don't really remember buying any new sets for my kids, although I do maybe 10 years ago. And they were expensive, I remember.
Legos are outrageously expensive. I'm a big fan of Ghostbusters, the movie.
Yes.
Well, they did like one of those adult type really hard sets with thousands and thousands of pieces of a really big scale model and really detailed opening doors and all the equipment of the Ghostbusters car, the Ghostbusters vehicle. And I saw that in the store, and I'm like, get me that for Christmas, honey. That'd be fun for me and the kids to put together. $200.
Yes. Is there a Lego store in the Mall of America, I believe?
There is.
Yeah.
There is a Lego store near me, and it's just all Legos, and it's made of Legos. Actual, like, huge statues, all Legos. It actually, people come there from all over the world just to look at that store, and they're taking pictures, and it's pretty impressive.
It is impressive, but the pricing is also overwhelming in some regard. But here's the interesting part.
It's like buying a soda at Disney World. You know what I mean? It's like the prices at Disney World.
Right. But you could get a water for $5.
Yeah.
So Lego outperforms large stocks, bonds, gold, and alternative investments, according to this study. And here's the returns. I want to talk about this. The average returns on Lego sets are 10 to 11% annually.
Wow.
And after real returns, they say real returns are about 8%. Do you remember what real returns are versus annual returns? Do you remember, Tony? A little
No,
quiz
what's the
for the
difference
listeners.
between annual and real?
Real returns factor in inflation, or
Inflation.
right.
That's right. That's right.
So you might get 10, but in real terms, it's only 7 because we have 3% inflation. So, but factoring in inflation, we're still at 10 to 11%, which is you know this. It's higher than stocks.
I love the
certainly higher than bonds.
Yeah, it's higher than the average return in gold, art, financial security, stocks, and bonds. In other words, it's unbelievable. Yeah.
Isn't it unbelievable? Like, I'm starting to say, wait, maybe I should go up in my attic and start looking to see what I got, because I probably have 50 sets. They're all in one big bin, or maybe 4 bins.
Sure.
But I'm wondering the time it would take to put these things together. It would probably be. Now, do I hire someone to put it together and then sell it?
Yeah. They're not worth as much once that box is open, though.
So what we're talking about is the secondary market. So you're not going to buy this and sell it back to the store, right? You're going to sell it to someone else. So
you're going to sell it on eBay, or there are online toy auctions now,
right,
where I've seen that the Lego sets are sold. And the same goes for a lot of popular toys. Legos are one of the biggest because they're very valuable and they're expensive to begin with. But Hot Wheels cars, it's funny because I saw a Hot Wheels car that I thought was interesting in a Target store the other day. So I took a picture because I wanted to figure out what the exact make of the truck was, and it didn't show it on there. It just had a weird name, so I thought maybe it's made up, because usually they say the year and the model. And so I looked it up online, and I just out of kicks and giggles, I Googled it, and it's already the cheapest one on eBay is twice as much as it's hanging there in the store for, in the package. So, there is something to this, Dan. I really think so. Now, I'm going to go out and say, Dan, that I believe, and I know from being a collector who buys and sells collectible items myself, I've never done it with Legos, but I've got to believe, though, to make that 11%, you'd have to go out, buy a bunch of new sets, and get some knowledge first of what might be a big reseller once the initial run, because Legos, they don't keep making the same sets over and over typically. Some of the Star Wars and Avenger sets they do, but a lot of the things are very limited. Like for a while they made a Scooby-Doo Mystery Machine Lego kit, and then now you can't find it. So now that's going for a lot online if you can find a new one. So then you make money. But if you go out and buy 20 brand new kits across the board, you're probably going to make money on 5 or 10 of them and either break even or lose money on the rest. And you think, well, how can you make 11%? Because the ones you make money on really make money. Like
that's right.
They're 100 times the original price sometimes.
Well,
I mean, it's crazy.
In the article, they talk about how the average returns are between -50 and 600%.
Yes,
so
exactly. That was my point. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right about the limited edition stuff. So there's a couple things here. They limit the number, and then they stop. They don't make them again, and maybe they'll bring it back. So that right there creates some scarcity. The people put them together like me. Sometimes they lose pieces. They're not looking to resell it. So they're out. I'm out. Like mine's not going back in the market. So there's some scarcity there. Then you have nostalgia they're playing into. Mystery Machine. Like my kids don't watch Scooby-Doo. That's a cartoon from the 70s and 80s, right?
I do. I watch
it.
Right.
So you watch it, but so that's who their audience is. Like, who are they targeting? They're targeting you. You're
Baby
older, you have
boomers and
disposable
Gen Xers.
income, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to be the one that suckers into buying this stupid thing, but it's not stupid if you're doing it right.
Well, Dan, I got to believe that what it is you're probably talking about, like I said, Gen Xers, baby boomers. You're talking about some 50-something-year-old guys with a basement full of Legos and collectible toys who buys and sells these things, right?
Totally. And that's the whole point of this, is that those that are buying and selling this are going to be mature experts, people that know what they're doing. They're going to have some sort of attachment to it. They're going to have some deep knowledge about it, which I'll get to in a moment. A couple of things from the article that I wanted to bring up is they say in it, or the study, the returns are not exposed to traditional risk and they provide diversification benefits. So traditional risk of a stock market, mean a stock market crash, or gold market crash, something like that. We could look at cryptocurrencies, right? There's traditional ebbs and flows of that. They're suggesting that the Legos didn't really see that in '08 when the market crashed. Legos didn't go down very much, right? There's still that
Right.
demand there because it's scarcity. And just because the stock market's crashing doesn't necessarily mean you're going to not buy your Lego set if you're a collector.
Right.
It might, obviously everything goes down to the economy, but you know what I'm saying? Not as much. So they're saying that they don't have the traditional, you don't have to worry about company risk, like the CEO of your company that you're buying going crazy. You don't have to worry about supply chain issues. That's only going to help, if anything.
Yeah.
And it does provide diversification, because really, what else is this like? It's kind of like stamps. Like, I had a friend who had a bunch of baseball cards.
Yep.
And during the pandemic, he brought them out. They're from the early 90s. And when he got them, he saved them and put them in those fancy cases.
Yep.
The acrylic cases.
Yep.
Turns out all the ones that were in acrylic got water in them and just disintegrated. And those were all the good ones. So he had selected the good ones back in the 90s, and they're all done. And it was just a tragedy, right? So there are some risks with Legos, but these things aren't going to go bad. The risk that I say that they don't factor in the study is stepping on one of these things. That's a huge risk, especially in Florida, where I'm barefoot a lot of time.
Yeah, ouch.
Anyone
who's ever stepped on a bunch of Legos, or even one, and screams in pain, that's ouchy. Yeah.
Right? So they don't talk about that risk. You got to factor these things in.
Yeah,
you're not going to step on a bar of gold and hurt your foot.
Nope.
You could drop it on your foot, but
yeah.
So here's another point that I want to bring up, Tony. The yields or the returns on this are going to be after 2 to 3 years. So when you buy a set, you're not going to be able to return 100% in a year.
Yeah,
like you just said with that Matchbox car.
Honestly, it's a long-term investment. It's not. There's no liquidity in it.
Right. And so, like when you buy gold coins and you have to store them, there's a risk of there. I got to store this thing. I got to buy a safe. There is a storage issue with Legos. Like, where do you keep this thing?
Or if your basement gets flooded and some of them are low enough, and the boxes get damaged, then they're
or
not
the instruction sheet, right?
Yep.
I think that has a part in it. I'm not really sure.
Packaging makes a difference. The condition of the packaging actually drastically affects value when it comes to collectibles.
Right. Right. And Legos are no different. Now, these things can probably go through negative 5,000 degrees temperature and, negative 50 degrees.
Yeah. The Legos themselves, I mean,
they're indestructible.
Legos. Yeah. Especially
it'll cut through a femur. If you land on it just right, it'll cut through your femur.
Yeah. Legos are fairly indestructible. Yeah.
I want to quote Victoria Dobrinskaya from her study. This is the all-important quote that I'm going to pull from this thing, just so you don't have to read it. Not all sets are equally successful, and one must be a real Lego fan to sort out the market nuances and see the investment potential in a particular set.
Yes, there you go. You can't just randomly go to Target and say, I heard these are valuable, and just scrape a bunch into your cart.
Buy one of each, right?
Works. Yeah.
No,
and I think it's
definitely nuanced.
It's Dobrinskia.
Right. Dobrinskaya?
No, Dobrinskia.
So, Tony, we're going to stick to things we know. So you don't know anything about Legos or pronunciation of Russian surnames. So talk to me.
I think I'm close.
Talk to me about your collectible. You mentioned you have collectible. Yep. Let me guess. It's vinyl. It's the vinyl records that you keep on your mom's basement.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's my basement, Dan.
Right. Your basement.
But it's the same goes for vinyl. And the thing about this, somewhat like the Legos, there are so many factors. People read stories. Oh, vinyl there's a big resurgence in vinyl records. And so I've got some up in the attic, and I've heard vinyl's worth a lot of money now. Well, there are so many factors that determines the value of a record. You start with the condition of the sleeve, the record jacket. If it's got a bent corner, it's worth less. If it's got 2 bent corners, that knocks it down. If it's got, and I'm talking about if they're not perfectly square, or if there's a price sticker or sticker goo on the record from where somebody sold it in a used store and put the sticker right on the cardboard and then tried to peel it off. That's going to greatly degrade the value. A lot of collectors won't even look at it. And then, of course, the most important piece is the vinyl record itself. Does it have visible scuff marks or scratches? Visible. You know, there's all these, and there's a list of these things. Then you get into the real particulars, like what color label is it? Because Columbia Records had a number of different labels over the years, and you can tell if it's a reissue because no, that's the Columbia blue label, and Columbia switched to black, and so that's the black. The black's worth less than the blue. And there's little etchings on the inside called the runout groove, where the music grooves stop, and there's that clearer area before you get to the label. There's little etchings of numbers in there, and they can tell you whether it was basically you can figure out whether it was a first pressing, a second pressing.
This is getting out of control.
Or a later pressing.
Anyway. You know what's happening. You are scaring the other collectors away to keep the scarcity. You're making stuff up now.
I am not.
No, I'm kidding with you. It's fun.
But I have records, like there's a record, and you'd be surprised at what some of the records that are worth something. Quiet Riot has a test, and I think it's an Australian.
Quiet Riot. We're talking about the band from the 80s.
The cheesy, not very good band
metal
from the
band.
80s.
Yes.
But for a hot second, there was a different member. He was famous. I forget his name, guitar player, who was with the band and recorded some songs with the band, and they did a test pressing of this record. Maybe it was a live record. And then they never went on. He never went on to officially be in the band, and they never released that record. The test pressing is worth $2,000. The last one, I think it's listed for $1,995. I'm not a Quiet Riot fan. I would never even be interested in this, but that's its value. Yet you can have a Beatles record that's worth $5 that is old. It's from the 70s, and you think, hey, this is in pretty good condition. Might be worth $10 because it's a 10th pressing, because it's not an original. It was on a label, or it was pressed at a plant. You can tell the pressing plant by the number, and maybe it was at a pressing plant that didn't do very good quality. There are records out there. So collectors know these things. And boy, you want to talk about particular, Beatles records can be worth nothing or tens of thousands of dollars. So
see, and I think the same could be said about the Legos. That's
exactly
you're making the conclusion. You've hit the nail on the head here, which is what I wanted to conclude. Alternative investments. What do we want to call it? Vinyl records, Legos. I mean, if you look at the Legos from this study, why wouldn't you? I think the number that's thrown about a lot is about 10% of the wealthy people put 10% in art or stamps or whatever, Legos. And so they're getting a 10, 11% return. Why wouldn't we do it? Here's why, Tony. Here's why I'm not going to buy a record at a garage. Well, maybe at a garage sale, but I'm not going to go on auction and buy a record or a vinyl, because you can make a huge return. It's clear, right? But you need to know your stuff, or you need to get real lucky. And to me, that's not an investment strategy.
No.
So when people are asking me about cryptocurrency, look what happened. I can make 10% a day. I can make 1,000% return on this. Why wouldn't I do it? Okay. I'll tell you why you wouldn't do it. Because you could easily lose everything.
Yeah.
Right? Or you could buy a Lego set that's valueless. You don't necessarily know what you're doing.
How do you know what a reliable company to work through is? How do you know how it works? How do you know your money is going to be there when you want to get it back? And we have a lot of, you read the horror stories about somebody lost $1 million in cryptocurrency. It just was poof, gone because they went through the wrong channel or they got scammed. So it's all about knowledge, and you got to be working with somebody you trust and somebody who's knowledgeable. So when it comes to finances, I'm trying to think of a name of somebody who's trustworthy with finances.
When it comes to
starts with a D. Starts with a D.
Well, I'll tell you this, Tony.
Dan.
Dolphin, right? No,
Dolphin Financial Group.
People talk to me about, because I am a certified financial planner, so they want to know the big picture and alternative investments, cryptocurrency, collectibles all factor in, gold, precious
Sure.
metals. And so I'm not an expert in this. I'm not, if someone said, hey, I saw your video on Legos, I'm interested in investing, what do I do? That's not the point of this discussion we're having. It's you really have to know your stuff, or you have to hire an expert that does know their stuff. So if you're going to invest in vinyl, maybe talk to someone like Tony. If you're going to, but you want to talk to an investment advisor first about, well, what percentage of my portfolio should I be doing? Because Tony just told me he can make 15% annually on a vinyl. That's a ridiculous statement. But let's say you truly believe this guy. Well, why wouldn't you put 100% of your portfolio in there? That's where I come in and say, let's get real and let's keep this, and finding that right percentage to put in an alternative investment. That's a nuanced discussion in itself, and that's where you need to start. But I thought this was interesting. Toys, Barbie dolls, whatever Legos. It might be, Legos. This is crazy. I can't believe that this woman has proven, well, it's not proven, the study is suggesting a 10 or 11% return. Tony, I think we're doing it all wrong.
But that's crazy that it would outperform the market, and that people are so, hey, the S&P 500. What about Legos, right? You never hear that. But here's another aspect, Dan, that we didn't touch really quick, and I know this because I know it about records, but Legos especially, the collectible market, because it's become so big with certain things like Legos. And there are other things, but Legos, I'll throw that out there. It has driven the retail cost of Legos. That's what's driven it up. It's not Legos are cheap to manufacture, right? That price actually probably hasn't even increased for the Lego company. It's only decreased. They can make a lot of Legos very inexpensively. What's driven the price up, and this is what drives the retail price of records up when they first come out. They're like, we're going to make this a limited edition blue vinyl, so our initial starting retail price instead of $21 is going to be $39, and people will pay it because they know if they hang on to it long enough, and maybe they keep it sealed as a collectible, they can resell it for 4 times, 5 times as much, right? So we have in the record industry, you call them flippers. They buy something new when fans can't get it. They get mad because the resellers buy it, and then they flip it on eBay for, once it goes out of print, which is not very long because they only made 500 or 1,000 copies of this record. Then and you can sell it worldwide on eBay. Boom, it's on eBay for $100, and the guy paid $39. So Legos is the same way. The reason they're so expensive at Target is because that set can be resold if you keep it in the box in 4 years for 10 times the amount, right?
So you're blaming greedy scalpers for the price of...
Yes.
It has nothing to do with the fact that Denmark is where they make these things, I think. Right? Isn't Lego and Denmark?
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with the economic policies of Denmark and the high wages.
It probably does.
Lack of sunlight.
Yeah. Well, Legos their popularity alone has driven the price up. But I think the collectible market drives retail prices up sometimes.
Absolutely. So tell me, Tony, are we going to switch out and change your portfolio up and invest in Legos now?
No, because the same thing will happen as happens with me with records. I have all these records, and they may have been a good investment, but in order to get that money, I'd have to actually sell them.
Ah, yes.
See, and
again, that's just going to drive prices up. Hoarding doesn't help.
But buying is fun, and owning them and listening to them is great, but letting them go. My wife would love me to let them go. Right?
So this is going to be a case where you're going to be on American Pickers, and your son's going to be there. Yeah, my daddy, look at these records. I just couldn't get him to sell anything. Will you take a nickel for him each? Yeah. All right. Here's 20 grand. Right.
No,
that's what's going to happen to you, Tony. That's what's going to happen.
I've left explicit instructions in the case of my passing on who they call to help them sell them, and they sell them as a lot for a big chunk of money to, there's a lot of Facebook vinyl dealers that have auctions that buy collections. And so they
Gotcha.
just sell them to somebody who buys a vinyl collection. So,
All right. But put that in. So there's another little estate planning thing for collectibles.
Estate
right?
planning.
We'll have a separate show. Estate planning with Legos, you know, or vinyl. So
yeah.
Thanks, Tony. I appreciate your insight, by the way. I don't have that collectible in me. You know, my closest thing I got was probably bottle caps as a kid.
Well, it's good to have hobbies, but collectors are crazy people. That's not necessarily a negative. That
takes
you don't
one to
hoard
know one, I
something.
guess, Tony. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thanks for joining us on another show, Tony. And, you know, enjoy the holiday music on your vinyl. You know,
I will
get some use out of that.
Charlie Brown Christmas.
I'm going to go dig up a Lego set and put it together and see what I can get for it on eBay.
All right.
All matters discussed in today's show are for informational purposes only.
This show is not investment advice.
Dan Wendell nor Dolphin Financial Group are affiliated or endorsed by any government agency.
Investment advisory services are offered through Dolphin Wealth Management, Inc., a registered investment advisor in the state of Florida.
Insurance products and services are offered through Dolphin Insurance, Inc.
Dolphin Wealth Management, Inc. and Dolphin Insurance, Inc. are affiliated companies doing businesses as Dolphin Financial Group.
You should talk to someone at Dolphin Financial Group before implementing any of these strategies or ideas.